Alright, so the Mandalorian and Grogu movie came out last week, so I'm keen as to review it today. Finally got a chance to check it out. I was actually fairly excited for this movie, not because I thought it would be great, just because I'd recently caught up on all the Mandalorian lore. So I was actually excited to see where they were going to take the story. So let's see, did it fare up? Let's have a look at my review for The Mandalorian and Grogu. So the basic plot of The Mandalorian and Grogu is the Mandalorian is now working for the New Republic, just taking on odd jobs here and there for them for some cash. As a contractor. So anyway, one of the missions that the New Republic wants Mando to help out with is to rescue Rotta the Hutt, who we haven't actually seen since the Star Wars The Clone Wars movie, which is actually really cool. Seeing him back again. I didn't expect that they would have him back in a second feature film. I guess a lot of people didn't actually watch the Star Wars The Clone Wars movie in theaters, which is fair enough because it was pretty average. But it was awesome to see Rotta back again, in my opinion, and this time he's more or less just like a gladiator in like a gladiator arena. He's working for a company which obviously uses betting to generate revenue through gladiator matches, so it was cool to see Rotta the Hutt back and actually fully jacked. It was something which was a surprise to me. I actually really enjoyed having him back as a character. I feel like he actually acted fairly on point for how someone in his situation would. There was a lot of like layers to the character in here. He clearly doesn't want to be known as one of Jabba's descendants, clearly wants to get away from that kind of world, which is something which we haven't actually seen before from the Hutts. They've all kind of just embraced who they are, being part of that family, so I found it really neat to actually have a Hutt who clearly wants to distance himself from that and that life, and that's something which Star Wars, like I said, hasn't done yet. So it was a nice touch, which I liked about his character, giving it another layer. So the basic plot of the movie is the Mandalorian and Grogu going off to try to save Rotta from this company who's trying to enslave him and make him play in the gladiator matches, ultimately to his demise. And just because it's got a similar plot to Star Wars Clone Wars feature film, I do feel like they do manage to have enough intricacies within the plot where it actually does change enough to where I'm like, okay, sure, the idea is similar, but there's enough going on here where it is a substantially different plot to what's going on in a film like that. So don't go into the movie expecting that it's going to be the same plot as the Clone Wars feature film, because it does definitely change it up. There's a lot of elements which are incorporated here, which definitely differentiates it. So we have to talk about the two main characters. Let's start off with the Mandalorian. And look, Mandalorian, it's fairly similar to how he's portrayed in the show here. I feel like they do a couple things with his character which I wasn't a massive fan of. However, ultimately he's more or less the same as he is in the show. I think that the show is better written in the way that the Mandalorian and Grogu both go through that show. There's a lot more depth to their characters than there are in this movie, which is probably to be expected given the runtime of the movie is substantially shorter. The show obviously works off 40 to 50 minute episodes, so if you have 8 of those in a season, you're looking at about 6-7 hours of content for those characters. So ultimately it does make sense that there's less in this show, in the movie, sorry. But however, I do think that the movie, while it doesn't really explore their characters much, it's more of like a fun adventure for the two to go on. So ultimately, I don't think it suffers too much. I don't think there's heaps that they could have done around their characters, because most of the character fleshing out for these two characters has been well established years ago in seasons 1 and 2. So ultimately, I think just as a film, which is a solo adventure for the two, I think it's fine. Like, it doesn't do anything crazy. It's nothing that you're going to go home blown away. There's nothing in here which is like a wow moment. But I don't think that you can leave the movie ultimately disappointed if you had realistic expectations going into it. That's just going to be a fun solo adventure between the two. That, of course, brings us to Grogu. Now, Disney are 100% playing up the Grogu cuteness in this film. There are multiple moments where Grogu is doing things clearly designed to get a laugh out of the audience, especially, mothers, younger children, that sort of thing. They're definitely trying to play into that cuteness a lot with him. It is noticeable, let's be realistic. They definitely do play into it enough to where it doesn't become overbearing, but it definitely is noticeable when you're watching it that, okay, well, this is designed to get a laugh out of XYZ. In the show, they definitely did it as well, don't get me wrong, but I think it was played down because they had so much more runtime. It was played down and spaced out more to where I think that was intermittent compared to the movie where it's every, 5-10 minutes. Not that it's a bad thing. I do love Grogu. I love his cute moments. I do think that they're great. It's just that there are probably a little too many in the movie where it's designed to specifically get a rise out of the audience. It does become a little bit noticeable. It's not really a criticism. It's more so just an observation. Apart from that, Grogu's pretty much how you'd expect him to be. Cute, funny, and an entertaining sidekick to the Mandalorian. The movie definitely works better that the two are in there. Not that they would never have both in the one movie, but having both complement each other and help each other out throughout the movie definitely benefits the movie rather than takes away from it. There's a fantastic scene with Grogu as well. Something happens probably halfway through the movie where Grogu is in a position where he has to essentially take care of the Mandalorian in one sense or another, and there's a terrific 10-20 minute sequence there with Grogu actually going out and being resourceful and actually embodying a lot of the traits that we would have seen from Yoda back on Dagobah. Whether that was intentional or not I'm not sure. However, it's a fantastic little sequence, which is definitely the standout sequence for me from a character perspective within the movie. And it's definitely the thing which I took home going, right, if we're going to look at one thing that was written for these characters, which actually builds upon the character, it's this sequence right here. Another character which I want to talk about, probably the final one, is we get the live action debut of Embo in this movie, which is absolutely awesome. So Embo is a bounty hunter from the Clone Wars TV show, for those who don't know. And the thing with Embo is, in the Clone Wars TV show, he was very much always on the tail of another bounty hunter. He was very much tracking behind like a Cad Bane, or he was in a group, or he was always in like a setting where you could never really focus on Embo solely. There was a brief arc, I think it was in season 6 with Clovis, which Embo does go out on his own more or less, but it's a very quick couple episodes. He's not shown heaps. In this movie, he really does get a chance to shine, and I think that they've done a fantastic job in translating him to live action form. I wasn't 100% on board with the fact that Embo was going to be in the movie until I saw him. And then I'm like, right, they've nailed this as a character. His entrance is fantastic, reminds me a lot of the entrance that we get from Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett. Very intimidating. He's not in the movie heaps, but when he is in the movie, he's definitely a character which I thought shined pretty bright. And I think the Clone Wars and extended Star Wars universe fans are going to have a ball watching him on screen. And if it's going to be a lot of people's introduction to this character as well. And I think you're going to enjoy him. He's a badass character. He's got his dog on the side. I think you're going to have a ball watching Embo. I really liked him in the movie, to be honest. Pacing and plot-wise, I think there is an argument to be made that this is 2 or 3 Mandalorian episodes from a season 4 put together. I think you can make that argument. There are times where the plot doesn't flow probably as smoothly as it should. I think that ultimately, while the movie is tonally consistent throughout and does have pacing, which is, I would consider would be adequate and is definitely on the positive side. I don't think the movie's dragging and it's going fast and slow for no reason, different moments. What I am thinking though is that there are enough 40 to 50 minute blocks in the movie, 2 or 3 of them, where you can see a beginning, middle, and end to an episode, and you can kind of begin to piece together, okay, this would probably end here, this would end here, this would end here. And it's more or less, I know there's 3 acts in a movie, it's not that there's act 1, act 2, act 3, it's that there's 3 acts within each 3-section block, which I think you can argue, okay, this is probably would have been where you'd cut off a TV episode. That doesn't make the movie bad. It doesn't make the movie badly paced. It's just a point of saying in feature-length films, generally it's 3 acts, and you can clearly tell when each are beginning, middle, and ending. However, in this movie, you do have 3 acts in which it kind of feels like 3 acts in between each one. So while it is a little bit noticeable, I don't think it takes away from the movie enough to be a concern, but it is something which I wanted to point out. Final thing I want to touch on in the review is the action scenes. I feel like the action scenes are adequate. I don't think that there's anything crazy going on in the movie, like I've said a few times now, with the action scenes in season 1 and 2 Mandalorian, even in season 3, like the action scenes I would say are probably better than what they are in the feature film, to be honest. I think the stuff with Embo is crazy good, but the stuff with the Empire and the stuff with the Hutts and all of that, it is kind of lacking in the action department. They do forget about the Empire very quickly in this movie, which surprises me massively. There's a big campaign with the Empire in the toy marketing for the movie, so it was surprising that they quickly forgot about the Empire. within the film. But ultimately, I think the action scenes, they're fine. They're nothing that you're going to be looking up, you know, this clip on YouTube from this movie just to see the action scene again, like with Darth Vader in Rogue One. There's nothing like that where you're going to be blown away. But they're fine. The action doesn't look bad. The budget clearly allows for the action scenes to look fine. I'd say they're probably just pretty adequate. It's about what you'd expect, but nothing like from what we saw in Mandalorian Season 2, for example, that level. There's nothing there in this movie, but the action sequences are okay. Overall, The Mandalorian Grogu is a perfectly good mid-movie, to be honest. I don't think that it's fair to be saying that the movie's bad. I don't think it's fair to be saying that the movie's great, but I also don't think it's fair to be saying that the movie is less than average as well. I think that ultimately, The Mandalorian Grogu is a fairly average movie and what you'd expect in this era of storytelling from these characters, considering how much they've developed already in the show. However, ultimately, I think it's slightly better due to the fact that there are some elements in the movie which I'd say are really good, and then there are some elements which I'd say are just fine. But ultimately, I think that The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's not being treated fairly in the sense that just because it's not great doesn't mean it's bad, and just because it's not great doesn't mean it's below average. I'd say this is a slightly above average Star Wars movie. It's definitely better than some of the other Disney Star Wars movies. It's not great. It's nothing that you're going to be going home and looking at clips throughout the movie 100 times. But I think ultimately, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a Mandalorian fan, you're going to have a good time with the movie. I'm more than happy to give The Mandalorian and Grogu a 6.5 out of 10. I think that you'll go into the movie and have a good time. And I think that's a great family movie as well. Obviously, kids are going to love Grogu. But if you like The Mandalorian as well, and extended Star Wars lore from the Clone Wars, you're going to appreciate having Rodder, you're going to appreciate having Embo, and ultimately, I'll be honest, I'm happy to watch the movie again. I would like to, so I'm going to give the movie a thumbs up overall. Thank you guys so much for watching the review. Appreciate all the support. I should have some more reviews on the way shortly. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.